Good morning, live viewers and replay viewers. Oops. There's the stream in our bridge. The water level's dropping. Yay! Oops. The water level's going down. It's flowing really fast. But the water is dropping, and there's this thing glowing in the sky. I'm not sure what it is. It's putting out a lot of light. Hi, Roseanne. Hi, Mom. Somebody else. I've got 3 people, but I only saw 2 names. Is my signal slow? Hang on, I'll go and plug the booster box. Hold on just 1 second. Okay, the sun is shining. The sun is shining. It's a miracle. My name is Michelle Wolf. You can find me at caddyshackdesigns.com. No, I just had a hard time getting going this morning. I was up a lot during the night. I have some symptoms of what my granddaughter has. You've heard of the sun? It's possible that's what that is. Something shining in the sky. We haven't seen it for days. Yeah. So, all roads into here are washed out, but we hear equipment down. Sounds like our road is being rebuilt. Heath just went and took the 4-wheeler down there to check it out. So, business stuff. Is Linda on here? Linda, did you pop on here? I wanted to mention Linda's Etsy shop is up and running. She made this, and she has some jewelry options. So we'll do some housekeeping stuff, and then we'll get to our Dao De Jing discussion. So Linda's website, I'll get from her when she pops in. If not, I think you can Google. It's Divinita Designs. Hang on just 1 second. And it's an Etsy shop. So I'm pretty sure, hang on just 1 second, that you can Google, I'm pretty sure that you can Google Divinita Designs and the word Etsy, and it should come up. Her prices are really too low. So until she catches on that her prices are too low, you should probably get over there and get yourself something while you can. And then the other housekeeping thing is the next Desire Map workshop for women. The ticket sales in January 5th. It says January 5th, but I think it doesn't actually stop until 6 o'clock January 6th. So you'll be able to get tickets for that. And then I will know by then if my license is renewed. Feelings.eventbrite.com. Yes, Linda has some very beautiful jewelry up there. And it has energy infused into it. She meditates when she's doing it, and there's prayers in it. She has a good selection of bracelets. Plus, any of her sales till January 3rd, she's donating 10% to my GoFundMe campaign from my license. Which, by the way, overnight, somebody else donated $100. And so I'm at just over 30%. 30%, just over 30% toward the goal of $1,800. Whee! Woohoo! So the fund is covering my license fee plus supplies to offer free workshops to homeless kids in Atlanta through an agency called Lost and Found. So my license fee is $1,000, and then $800 is books and supplies and truth bomb decks and fun stuff for those kids. I think they go up to 21 maybe. today. Linda, I was just talking about your Etsy shop. Would you toss the website up for us? I know it's a long one. It's probably, I'm going to say it's www.etsy.com/shop, another / and then whatever her shop name is. Is it Divinita Designs / Divinita Designs? Anyway, you can put it up there when you get a second. You're such a fast typer, I'm sure it won't take you long. It's oh, my handwriting's really small. DIVINITA. Oh, I wrote it wrong. Designs. My handwriting's terrible. Yeah, super cute stuff. So today's our Dao De Jing day, after all that housekeeping stuff, which replay viewers can fast forward through. I should have said that at the beginning. Everyone, I'm sure, knows they can replay through the housekeeping stuff. No, thank you. You've got pretty stuff in there. When I'm not in fundraising mode, I'll be helping myself to shopping over there. Woohoo! Here's where you can find me. CaddyshackDesigns.com. Everything on the website is... Oh, no, I didn't, Catherine. Thank you. The funding campaign... Oh, so much housekeeping stuff. For the Desire Map workshops is this. It's GoFundMe.com / Michelle Wolf. Now, what's showing is not the accurate amount because people have bought things offline and sent me donations through PayPal instead. So the amount raised so far is actually $640. But that's the website. www.gofundme.com / Michelle Wolf. Ah, thank you. That's where you can donate to. That supports me continuing to do this every day because I do this 7 days a week. It supports childcare for 2 children part-time. It supports free services to kids and various other things. And oh my gosh, guys, every dollar counts right now. And I am eternally grateful for the support. Thank you! Millions. $1 million. Yes. Oh, there's all kinds of goodness going on. I can see it happening. I can. So, if this is what you came here for, we'll start now. Housekeeping stuff funds this stuff, though, really. I mean, we have to sell products and raise money and stuff to be able to have the time to offer these kinds of things. 10% of all purchases till January 3rd goes to my fundraiser, which I'm so grateful for. Thank you so much. Beautiful, beautiful jewelry. And Linda, you're underpriced. This is the first translation we'll start with. It is Power of the Heavy. Chapter 26 is where we're at right now. Isn't that sweet? Okay, Power of the Heavy. Heavy is the root of light, still is the master of moving. So wise souls make their daily march with the heavy baggage wagon. Only when safe in a solid, quiet house do they lay care aside. How can a lord of 10,000 chariots let his own person weigh less in the balance than his land? Lightness will lose him his foundation. Movement will lose him his mastery. So wise souls lay cares aside in a solid, quiet place. At the bottom, her notes say, I take heaviness to be the root matters of daily life, the baggage we bodily beings have to carry, such as food, drink, shelter, safety. If you go charging too far ahead of the baggage wagon, you may be cut off from it. If you treat your body as unimportant, you risk insanity or inanity. The first two lines, excuse me, the first two lines would make a nice motto for the practice of Tai Chi. Tai Chi Chuan is the martial arts. Heavy is the root of light. Still is the master of moving. So we have to move, but you don't want to go too far ahead, because what happens when your thoughts go too far ahead? You get anxious and stressed out because your mind can't see that far ahead. So when you push it that direction, only fear can happen, because you're on shifting sand at that point, because our lives, especially in these accelerated times for people who are working a lot on these issues, the time is accelerated. So if you get too far ahead, you're going to be way, way too far ahead. Hi, honey. Where are you? Are they down there fixing our road? Wise souls make their daily march with the wagon, and only when safe in a solid, quiet house do they lay care aside. And even a lord of 10,000 chariots. Oh, cool. Okay, have fun. Color you anxious. Breathe in the chaos. Breathe out peace. Okay, so let's see what Stephen Mitchell's translation says. This version goes with our Byron Katie book. So 26. The heavy is the root of the light. Yeah, definitely a good time to practice. Day after Christmas theater. When Morgan and I went to see the Star Wars movie the other day, was it Monday night? Empty. There was like 8 other people in there. It was amazing. The heavy is the root of the light. Yes, very. The unmoved is the source of all movement. Thanks for the shares and the hearts. Thus the master travels all day without leaving home. However splendid the views, she stays serenely in herself, so she's not dazzled by the dazzling things. Why should the lord of the country flit about like a fool? If you let yourself be blown to and fro, you lose touch with your root. If you let restlessness move you, you lose touch with who you are. We can travel all day without leaving home if home is right here. It doesn't matter if you're at the chaotic after Christmas Day movie theater or, God forbid, the airport. If somebody's in the airport, blessings on your head right now. Although traveling on the holiday day is usually not too bad. I've done that a couple times. However splendid the view, she stays serenely in herself. So much crazy. I like airports when I have plenty of time to just sit. When I get there early enough that I can get, settled and just watch people and listen to people's conversations. As a writer, it's like you could write book after book after book just sitting and listening in the airport. You haven't flown anywhere? Well, when my mom starts holding retreats at her house in Denver, we can fly over to Denver and go to some kind of retreat. Which, by the way, my mom is meeting with Sarah at Thrive with Sarah, Sarah Ballard. No, you can get tickets $140 from Atlanta to Denver. Of course, you're not in Atlanta, but you could come here and we could carpool. If you buy them ahead of time, you can get them really cheap. $140, I was able to get Heath a ticket to Denver recently. Then he decided he didn't want to go, and thank God I hadn't pushed the button yet. Southwest, yeah, Frontier was the one I was looking at, and it was super cheap. Delta's pricey. Oh yeah, we will. So my mom's going to meet Sarah while they're in Colorado, and she's going to go look at her house and see if it'll work for a Koya workshop or something. And she's in north of Denver. Not exactly a suburb of Denver, but a town a little bit north. It's super cool. The unmoved is the source of all movement. The source is the unmoved. Yeah, it could be really cool. Actually, as close as we all live together. Where's Tanya? Is Tanya doing Christmas stuff? We could fly Linda in, and then we could all meet centrally and then drive. Ugh, that sounds awful. Let's all meet centrally and fly. It's a long way from the East Coast to Colorado. So, let's see what Mike and Katie has to say today. It takes 23 hours to drive from Atlanta to Denver. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's awful. Here's the awful part. It's not bad going through, Illinois and Kentucky and Tennessee and all that because the scenery changes. But when you hit Kansas, it's like Nebraska. You just drive and drive and drive, and the scenery doesn't change, and you feel like you're stuck in some weird Twilight Zone. This is our other book, 1,000 Names for Joy. And we are set for a retreat here in Ellijay, Georgia for June. If you don't have that information, message me or email me at caddyshackdesigns@gmail.com. We have several people confirmed for that already. That's $225 for 3 days of food and fun and camping. 26, peace is our natural condition. Only by believing an untrue thought is it possible to move from peace into emotions like sadness and anger. Without the pull of beliefs, the mind stays serenely in itself and is available for whatever comes along. I use this example a lot. I was telling my mom the other day, when she was teaching me how to drive when I was 14, where I lived in rural Texas, you could get a driver's license at 14 because if you were the only kid. So if something happened in an emergency, you needed to be able to drive, they would let you get your license. You could only drive during certain hours, so I learned pretty young. And when you're a kid in rural areas, you learn pretty young anyway because people just let you drive illegally. When she was teaching me how to drive, she taught, because, tendency when you're first learning, or even as an adult when you're stressed, is to grip the wheel really, really hard. And she taught me to hold my hands really loose on the steering wheel because she said, and it made sense to me even then, is if your hands are loose on the wheel, you cut your reaction time. So you can move your hands or adjust your hands or respond to traffic or sudden things going on in traffic if your hands are held lightly on the wheel. Plus, when you grip the wheel for, an hour or whatever, 2 hours of driving time, at the end of it, your hands hurt really bad. So I try to use that image of myself when I was 14 and 15, consciously loosening my hands on the wheel. And then my first job, real, professional job, was as an emergency medical technician. And so that skill of holding the wheel lightly and being really broadly aware of traffic helped me immensely in that career. Yes, more relaxed state to respond to the unexpected. So you're not rigid, you're fluid, and you have all your energy available. So I have all the power, in my hands available to react when I needed to react. So that alert stillness that was mentioned a few days ago, like meditation isn't, or mindfulness meditation is not a cocoony, wrapped up state where nothing comes in. It's actually a hyper alert state. It's alert stillness. You're completely available to whatever's happening in the moment. So that's what she's talking about here. That's our natural condition. It's only by the pulling of beliefs that shift us off that. The mind stays serenely in itself and is available for whatever comes along. Who would you be when with other people without the story that anybody should care for you or about you ever? Who would you be when you're with your family and friends if you had zero expectations that they should do anything for you or be any particular way? If you just minded your own business, basically. If you just handled your own beeswax and didn't worry about what they were doing or not doing or thinking or not thinking. A lot of times when we're talking, we're so busy thinking about what we're going to say next that we really are not fully paying attention to what people are saying to us. I have a theory that with the loss of close relationships and access to people in churches to confide in and get attention needs met, like one-on-one, that has contributed to the rise in therapy attendance. I had clients who were done and still wanted to come and pay me because, unfortunately, I was the only person in their life that gave them focused one-on-one attention for an hour. That's not an appropriate use for therapy. Yay! Oh my God! You be proud. Congratulate yourself. You're very welcome. Oh, I'm so glad. There's nothing like a relaxed, stress-free Christmas. Yeah, that's great. Super great. So think about that. That availability. And the lack of expectation. And understand that that need for focused attention can be gained from within. You don't have those attention needs when you're not shoring up an ego story. Someone said yesterday, this is how my mind works, okay? I am mildly symptomatic of Ashlyn and now Avery's current virus. I did find my oregano oil and it seems to have stopped it in its tracks. However, I was up several times last night, so at 3 o'clock in the morning, this is what I was thinking about. Someone mentioned yesterday something about being an empath and things being different for empaths. That's not what he or she said, but it got me thinking that a lot of people talk about being sensitive and empathic as somehow different. But this is just my own personal theory. I think we are. I think we struggle with being sensitive and empathic when we don't know how to handle the incoming information, the incoming sensory information. I don't know that it's different than other. Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Who's tuned in or not, and whoever can manage it suffers less. So the management of it is not struggling. What am I trying to say here? This all made sense at 3 in the morning. It's kind of like when you're, I don't know if you know this, but if you use mind-altering substances, or you did in your youth, as I did, sometimes ideas make perfect sense, and then you try and explain them and they're garbage. But this isn't garbage. This is going to take me a minute. Everything makes sense at 3 a.m. Right. Yes. So, what I think is necessary for sensitive and empathic people is to stop struggling with the incoming information and get used to make the uncomfortable comfortable through desensitization and practice of that, all that incoming emotion coming in and then through, instead of here's all this incoming emotion and we struggle. We're like, where does this go? What do I do with this? Where do I put all this incoming information, all this sensory stimuli, all this emotion coming at me? You can learn to just let it all flow through. No different than as if you were standing outside and the wind started blowing. And the wind just goes through you and around you. It feels like it goes through you when you're in Colorado. It feels like it's cutting a hole right through you. But you know what I mean? Like air, I now release all energy that is not mine and return it from where it came. Perfect. Yes. We haven't been taught that there's no need. Yes, perfect. I think what the person yesterday was struggling with is these deconstructing story techniques are helpful. They work for people who have a story about I'm not saying this is what that person had. If you're watching the replay, I think his or her name was Jonesy or something. But I have heard other people who are empathic talk about it in these terms, and it made me think that sometimes people get caught up in saying, I'm an intuitive and that means, and here comes the story. Or I'm empathic and that means, followed by this story of how I can't be out in public, or I can't do crowds, or I can't be with people. We can be when we learn how to filter appropriately. So saying that if this isn't mine, send it on, or stopping labeling it entirely and just treating it like another force of nature, and letting it go in and through. Releasing stories is critical. It's critical. So if you think I'm an introvert or I'm an empath and that means certain things, it's limiting. It's limiting to your world. It can make your world small. And being empathic is a gift when you can understand that you don't have to drown in the sea of information. Yeah, you probably just are intuitively handling it. There's certain times that I like crowds. I like the energy in a crowd. That's rare. But I think I'm getting better over time as I learn to just let things flow on through and not try to categorize and make sense. You don't need to make sense of any of that stuff. It's just energy. Is that really loud to you guys? Can you hear that? The man has some kind of power tool going. Okay, so let me finish this. You would be love, pure love, around everybody you're with if you didn't have expectations of them. Yeah. But we might be more like that too if we could handle all the stimuli. Okay. When you believe the myth that people should care or should do something for you, they think it's all theirs and they have to do something about it. Yeah. That's, I think, where the struggle can come from. Or that they have some sort of inherent responsibility. Yeah. 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 That somehow because you can feel it, that you are responsible for doing something with it, and that's not true. We always have choice. The experience of love can't come from anyone else. It can only come, that's too heavy a weight. And nobody asks us to do that. I mean, some people do, but it's rare that we're asked to take on that level of responsibility. It's not ours to take. I was once walking this is an interesting story that I've read about or heard her talk about before. I was once walking in the desert with a man who began to have a stroke. We sat down and he said, "Oh my God, I'm dying, do something." He was talking through one side of his mouth because the other side had become paralyzed. What I did was sit there beside him, loving him, looking into his eyes, knowing that we were miles away from a phone or a car. He said, "You don't even care, do you?" And I said, "No." And through his tears, he started to laugh, and I did too. Eventually, his faculties returned. The stroke had come to pass, not to stay. This is the power of love. I wouldn't leave him for a caring. If someone were knifed in front of me, what would compassion look like? I would do everything within my power to help, of course. But to think that this shouldn't be happening would be to argue with reality, and that's not efficient. So if someone is stabbed in front of you and you immediately start to freak out, you're not available for the situation. You need to know how to access help and then how to be with that person and how to be guided to help. You can get intuitive guidance like that in a really quick way in emergency situations that won't be available to you if you're busy freaking out about it. That's easy for me to say. Okay, it's not efficient. If I cared, I couldn't be the intimacy that I am. If she cared about in that attachment way, is what she means. A caring would move me away from the real world. Oh gosh, yes. See, people will start to accuse you of being cold-hearted. And you're not. You're actually more loved than ever in your whole life. But you're not interacting in the same way, and that can be upsetting for some people, especially if they're kind of feeding off your support or acceptance or things like that. Yes, exactly. Hi, kitty. I have the boys locked up and the Ginger's out here today. Yes, all the drama. To exclude anything that appears in your universe is not love. Love, the Disney Channel is the worst. Totally. Hey, you should send a note to Matt Belisai to do an episode on why Disney movies are the worst. He probably would. Disney movies are the worst. My God, that guy is so funny. He's so vulgar, but so funny. He totally would. Okay. So, love doesn't exclude the monster. She's done this work in prisons with some pretty scary dudes. Right. Didn't forget it. Forget about it. When you work with guys in prison, they can be pretty intimidating. Yeah, new Disney is the absolute worst. Love doesn't exclude the monster. It doesn't avoid the nightmare. It looks forward to it. Because, like it or not, hiya, Babs, right? Hello. There's no way... Okay, wait a minute. I'm sorry. I'm losing track. Love joins with everything. It doesn't exclude the monster. It doesn't avoid the nightmare. It looks forward to it because, like it or not, it may happen if only in your mind. There's no way that I would let caring interfere with what I experience as my very own self. It has to include every cell, every atom, because it is every cell and every atom. There is no also. There is no other. When something feels right, I do it. I live my life out of that caring, that kind of caring. That's how I contribute to life, by picking up trash on the sidewalk, by recycling, by sitting with the homeless, sitting with the wealthy, helping people who are deeply confused question their thinking. I love what is and how it changes through my hands and yours. It's wonderful to be so available to change what I can and for it to be effortless always. Some people think, okay, this is a good explanation. Some people think that compassion means feeling another's pain, and that's nonsense. It's not possible to feel another's pain. You imagine what you'd feel if you were in that person's shoes, but what you're feeling is your own projection. Who would you be without your story? Pain-free, happy, and totally available if someone needs you. A listener, a teacher in the house, a Buddha in the house, the one who lives it. Buddha's in the house. Sorry, I can't resist. As long as you think there's a you and a me, let's get the bodies straight. Yes. That's why when I read this book, I was like, I want to be this, and I don't understand what the hell she's talking about. What I love about separate bodies is that when you hurt, I don't, because it's not my turn to hurt. And when I hurt, you don't. Can you be there for me without putting your own suffering between us? Your suffering can't show me the way. Suffering only teaches suffering. So, when you're a social worker working with people in crisis or whatever, or even as an EMT or whatever, you learn really quickly, if you're going to last for any length of time at all, that when someone else is crying, you have to breathe. Or screaming or raging or whatever. You have to breathe and open this space up, because otherwise all that energy will crush everybody. If we all sink down into the drama of the moment, everything goes to hell. So you're taught these de-escalation techniques, and this is for working with anyone who's rageful or really out there acting out. So de-escalation techniques teach you that you kind of match that person's energy. You bring your energy up and big and match them and kind of shout. You may have to raise your voice, and then you pull it back in, and they almost 100% of the time, unless there's some sort of drug use going on, they'll follow you back down and become quiet. Nobody wants to feel like that. Nobody usually chooses to be out of control. And this works with children too. Yeah, we think we're bad if we don't conform to society's way. But you can bring a screaming toddler down this way too. If you you don't even have to raise your voice, but you can get your energy big. Deep breathe, talk softly. It works with dogs. Bring it back down. Because we want to be brought back to peace. We want that. It's not our natural state to be spinning out of control. And so we can also do that with ourselves. When we're spinning out of control, we see it, we start breathing, we make space for all that energy and, breathe it through and out, or however you visualize it, and just bring it all back to natural, peaceful, available. And then you can start looking at whatever happened. But until you come back to some level of calm, you can't even figure out what was just going on. Compassion is not feeling another's pain, because if I'm feeling your pain and I get lost in your tears, I'm not available to you. Now I'm taking care of me. It's very frustrating if you're expressing a lot of emotion to someone that you think is a support person and they get upset. Then you're pulled out of your expression where you were seeking support, and now you're taking care of them because they freaked out and joined you in your pain and maybe got worse. So now you can't get the support you need because you're taking care of the person you were trying to get support from. Only in a state of being totally unattached to what someone's going through, and recognizing that whatever they're going through is whatever they're going through. And it's all right. And you don't have to be scared of other people's emotions. You can hold the peaceful state. You can set the tone. The out of control person is only going to set the tone for a room if there's nobody in the room projecting peace. Because peace is what we seek. So if any one person in the room is projecting that and staying calm, everything in the room will flow toward that. Who would you be without your story? Pain-free, happy, and totally available. The Buddhist philosophy says it's important to recognize the suffering in the world, and that's true. But if you look more deeply, even that is a story. It's a story to say that there is suffering in the world because suffering happens here. Suffering happens from fighting with reality. Nope, you just get it. Yeah, you just get it. Unless it's someone that I have a story about that it has impacted me, I don't grieve their loss. When I move from people, I generally don't miss people either because I don't feel like I've lost them. I feel like they're still there, and I don't have an achy, like, missing thing unless I have some kind of attachment. And it has to be a pretty deep attachment. So I've been accused of being cold that way. Yeah. I am able to be present with people in extreme states of torment without seeing their suffering is real. I'm in the position of being totally available to help them see what I see. Like Roseanne said, or I think it was Roseanne said she was seeing his healthy state. So if you're available and story-free, you see the reality, you see the actual truth of the situation. Yeah. Which makes you incredibly powerful and effective to whoever is lost in their story. They're the only ones who can change, but I can be present with kind words and the power of inquiry. It's amazing how many people believe that suffering is proof of love. If I don't suffer when you suffer, it means I don't love you. How many times have you had relationships like that? Yeah. Where they're upset because you went on vacation and didn't miss them. It's like, but why would I miss you? I don't... I'm not tangled up that way. This person down there sometimes thinks because I don't worry, I don't love. It's not true. I trust that things are going to be okay. It's dependency, yes. But it's what we've been taught. We've been taught that, well, if you don't worry about me, then you don't care. And you do care, but I know you'll be okay. I trust that you're going to be perfectly fine. Even if you die, you're still going to be perfectly fine. Because what's so bad about that? And that doesn't make any sense to people who are still lost in Disneyland. Plus, if I'm worrying and I'm losing sleep and not eating and something really does happen, how much good am I going to be to you? I'll be exhausted. Love is serene and fearless. If you're busy projecting what someone's pain must feel like, how can you be fully present with her? Okay, enjoy shoveling that snow. I miss it. I do miss the snow. How can you hold her hand and love her with all your heart as she moves through her experience of pain? Why would she want you to be in pain too? Wouldn't she rather have you present and available? I would like a little more cold. Yeah, if it bothered you enough, pray about it. If you've prayed, you don't need to worry anymore. You hand it over. Yeah, really good point. If it's bugging you, pray about it. Then you'll remember where the real power is. And you'll remember where your source of control is and isn't. You just hand it over. And you're like, okay, I remember now. Prayer brings us back to center and helps us, in my opinion, well, not only does it activate those forces of nature, but it helps us remember that it's not our job. It helps us remember what's our business, what's their business, and what's God's business. You can't be present for people if you believe you're feeling their pain. I know, chapter after chapter. So, if a car runs over someone and you project what it must feel like, you're paralyzed. But sometimes in a crisis like that, you may have had this experience. In an emergency, the mind loses its reference and stops projecting. You don't think, you just act and you run over and you deal with something. Without even thinking. You just take off running and you do it. She's talking about you run over and pick up the car before you have time to think this isn't possible. You've heard stories like that, right? Where a kid gets run over and mom or somebody small that shouldn't be capable of picking up a car runs over and picks up the car. Because the mind isn't sitting there, the mind's not available in that crisis moment to say, you can't pick up a car? Are you nuts? You just do it. Sadness is always a sign you're believing a stressful thought that isn't true. It's constriction and it feels bad. Conventional wisdom says differently, but the truth is that sadness is not rational. It is not a natural response, and it can't ever help you. It indicates the loss of reality, the loss of your awareness of love. Okay, I'm going to say that one again. Sadness is not a natural response. It can't ever help you. It indicates the loss of reality, the loss of your awareness of your source. We get sad when we forget. We get sad when we fall asleep in our minds and we forget that love is available to us at all times, and we forget actually that we are love. Sadness is a war with what is. It's a non-accepting. It's rejecting reality. You're rejecting reality and you're putting labels on it. You've left yourself. You've lost your connection. How could you not feel sad then? If you're in disconnect with God, you're going to feel awful because we're supposed to feel connected. Our story again. Yep. It's a tantrum. She calls sadness a tantrum. You can experience it only when you're arguing with God. When the mind is clear, there's not any sadness. There can't be. Sadness and love can't exist side by side. Fear and love can't exist in the same moment. You can have that. Let me clarify that. You can have the superficial experience of fear along with the awareness that everything's okay. That split feels like a split reality. It's really not. You're aware of the truth of the situation even as your ego, social conditioned mind is freaking out. If you move into situations of loss in a spirit of surrender to what is, what you experience is a profound sweetness and excitement about what can come out of the apparent loss. Sometimes when people get fired, part of them freaks out and part of them knows it's the absolute best thing that ever happened to them. So they may be freaking out, but there's also some kind of excitement when they know now anything is possible. I think that happens to people who receive terminal diagnoses. All of a sudden, anything is possible. Everything is let go of. You can't really worry about the things that you were worried about. All your attention goes to what you need to do right now in this minute to handle a cancer diagnosis. And that's my story of it, because I've never been diagnosed with cancer. But I have had things happen where my mind was unmoored, and it was nice to be in that total moment-to-moment reaction. That might not be the right word. Total moment-to-moment awareness and openness to, okay, what's next? What's coming next? What do we do next? Well, we're going to hang out here until we know what to do. Once you question the mind, once the stressful story is seen for what it is, as just a story, there's nothing you can do to make it hurt. You see that the worst loss you've experienced is the greatest gift you can have. When the story arises again, she shouldn't have died, or he shouldn't have left, it's experienced with a little humor, a little joy, a little like cosmic chuckle. Like, because they're not gone. Life is joy, and if you understand the illusion, you understand that it's you arising as joy. What does compassion look like? At a funeral, just eat the cake. You don't have to know what to do. It's revealed to you. Someone comes into your arms and the kind words speak themselves. You're not doing it. Compassion isn't a doing. Whether or not you're suffering over their suffering, you're standing or you're sitting, but one way you're comfortable and the other way you're not. If you're not suffering over their suffering, you're totally available to speak those compassionate words. If you had that experience where something came flying out of your mouth towards someone and you're like, where'd that come from? That's Source speaking through you. And it's usually the exact perfect thing that person needed to hear. You can only have those experiences when you're not tangled up, when you're totally present and available. Source can use you as an answer to someone's prayer, but you have to be available for that. You don't have to feel bad to act kindly. On the contrary, the less you suffer, the kinder you naturally become. And if compassion means wanting others to be free of suffering, how can you want for others what you won't give to yourself? So another clarifying statement is that this isn't talking about the shared tears. Like sometimes when someone's crying and you're all upset about the same thing and you cry together, you can move through it really quickly and come back to center. It's kind of a mutual expression of, it helps that energy just flow on through. You know what I mean? Like you share a good cry over something that's mutually painful. That's a supportive kind of crying. That's like, I'm crying with you. I'm not crying over your crying, if that makes sense. You're sharing and expressing the pain together. That's a little bit different. You don't have to feel bad to act kind. On the contrary, the less you suffer, the kinder you naturally become. I think I read that already. So, even when things are devastating like 9/11, you can be superficially shocked and appalled, and underneath it all, totally open to what's happening. Totally accepting of what's happening. And totally available to send or hold that area in that space of healing. Like when doing Reiki, I'm not sending Reiki to somebody else. I'm creating that connection to Source within myself and then holding them in mind. And we're sharing that space. Because I can't send something when we're all one thing anyway. I can't send it from point A to point B. So if somebody in Colorado buys a Reiki session, I can't, here in Georgia, send it via ether mail. But I understand that I get in that space of we're all connected. So all I'm doing is just like we've talked about today, is I'm seeing the truth of the situation, of you as healed, of you as fully in your power, of you as your ultimate Source connected self. And that energy then starts to flow. My hands get hot and all kinds of cool stuff happens. But it's not me doing it. It's me remembering and then holding you in that space of remembering. And if information needs to come, then it comes. But it doesn't always. The end of suffering happens in this very moment, whether you're watching a terrorist attack or doing the dishes. And compassion begins at home. Because I don't believe my thoughts, sadness can't exist. That's how I can go to the depths of anyone else's suffering if they invite me. That's important. Take them by the hand and walk them out of it into the sunlight of reality, because I've taken the walk myself. It's the remembering. Yeah, prayer, I believe, is the act of remembering. Meditation is the act of remembering. Sometimes you need a friend to grab you by the shirt and go, "You're more powerful than this. Snap out of it." Whack. Do you ever see that cartoon that says short-term therapy and it shows a therapist just whacking somebody and saying, "Snap out of it"? That's the shortest therapy there is. Somebody to just wake your ass up. I've heard people say that they cling to their painful thoughts because they're afraid that without them, they wouldn't be activists for peace. If I felt completely peaceful, why would I bother taking action at all? And my answer is because that's what love does. If you're completely peaceful, that's what we were just talking about, Source can use you in appropriate ways. But you won't know what's appropriate if you are lost. Look at the lavender kitty. It's totally off topic. Kitty. Isn't she cute? She's so sweet. I have to lock everybody else up to get her some sunlight. To think that we need sadness or outrage to motivate us to do what's right is insane. She's so sweet. She's beautiful. She's tiny. As if the clearer and happier you get, the less kind you become. It's exactly the opposite. As if when someone finds freedom, she just sits around all day with drool running down her chin. My experience is the opposite. Love is action. It's clear. It's kind. It's effortless and irresistible. When you're in that state of remembering your connection to God and your expression of God in the world, you do become irresistible. That's when synchronicity goes through the roof. Things are brought to you. Ideas are brought to you with understanding of how to make them happen. Gifts come to you in the right moment. Information comes to you just when you need it. Because you're there to hear it. I think information comes to us all the time, but if we're not connected to love, we don't hear it. Because all we're hearing is the voice of pain and our voices of suffering. All the voices that tell us that, everything that's wrong. We can't hear the little voice of everything that's right. So, remembering that connection, and which starts with breathing, deep breathing, will bring you back pretty quickly. You can do that with friends, and you'll find out pretty quickly when you're doing that with people if they really want to feel better or if they don't. When you offer that to someone, you don't have to say a word. Someone calls you and they're upset, or you're with a child that's upset, the best thing you can do is to start breathing and remembering your own connection. You don't have to say anything to them. And if they will, if they want to, if they're truly seeking release from pain, they'll join you there automatically. They'll just join you there. And if they're really hardcore connected to their story, they usually either will start an argument with you or hang up or find some reason to get off the phone pretty quickly. I think I told you guys that I had a friend who is just an acquaintance now, because when she calls and wants me to join her in bashing herself, like join in on her bashing story, I won't. And I say that, I'm like, I'm not going to join you in that, because that's bullshit. Yeah, I just don't. Why would I want to do that? I don't want to dive in there. I don't want to. It is a good measure, because if people are seeking relief and growth, they're drawn to it like a moth to a flame. So you turn the light on for them, and they go running for the light if that's what they're looking for. Or they retreat back into darkness if they're not ready to let go of it yet, and that's okay too. Whatever they do is okay. At a minimum, you feel okay. At a minimum, your energy is not siphoned off by someone else's pain and drawing on you. Your staying centered offers them shelter in the storm. And then they can take it or not take it, and you don't attach to that. If you're attached to them taking it, if you're doing it with an agenda, it doesn't work as well. If you're like, okay, I'm going to be peaceful now, and he's going to grow. Jeez, that usually doesn't work. That's not a pure expression. Always has an excuse. Yep. Some people are not ready to let go of their stories. And to try and argue them out of it is like trying to teach a dog to meow. It's wasted effort. Or what is that saying? Try to teach a pig to dance? Waste your energy and annoys the pig. scream that up. That's a quote by somebody. Winston Churchill, maybe? I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. Ignore me. I'm being nibbled on by a cat. It's a little distracting. The longer... Yes, why would you do that? Your therapist is nicer than one of my old therapists. One of my... That's a great example. One of the best therapists I ever went to was in grad school. I forced myself to go to group therapy because I don't like groups much. I can handle them now. But at the time, I was like, I don't want to go to group therapy. But I wasn't going to ask a client to go to group therapy. Robert Heinlein. Such a great writer. I wasn't going to ask a client to go through group therapy if I wasn't willing to do it myself. So I made myself go. Never teach a pig to sing. Yes, waste your time and annoys the pig. Pearls before swine, all those kinds of sayings. Those sayings exist for a reason. So anyway, this therapist is Mark Ben, B-E-N-N. He's a psychologist at Colorado State University. So me and my classmates split up and we all went to group therapy. It was horrible. And then it was not horrible. But Mark said... Instead of a broken toy, it was a little more graphic. He said, hanging on to all that anger is like carrying shit in your pocket. Why would you want to carry shit in your pocket? If there's shit in your pocket, other stuff can't come in, and it's getting all over everything. It's seeping into everything. Yuck. But it was a graphic enough example, I never forgot it. He also said something I never forgot in that, nobody wants that. He said that when women are extra emotional during their cycle, to say that it's just your period is horrifically demeaning and almost cruel. Because if a woman feels amplified emotion based on hormones, it's still valid emotion. It still deserves, probably, maybe your Christian counselor is like not going to say, you're carrying a turd in your pocket. Mark was definitely a very graphic, direct guy, but I really liked him. Yes, women use it too as a defense. So if you catch yourself doing that, you still need to validate your emotion, and the people around you still need to be respectful. Because it still hurts. Hurt is hurt. And we don't have to get caught up in our stories about it. Oh, it's infuriating if someone's like, are you on the rag? Are you about to get your period? Are you on your period? Like, so what if I am? I'll punch you in the face right now. I'm actually not a violent person. So, anyway, practice that. It always, always, always comes back to acceptance. Why wait? Let's just do it. I'll just punch you right now, and we'll be done. Always comes back to story, always comes back to acceptance, always comes back to not arguing with reality as it is. Everything we talk about comes back to that. If you only remember one thing, and that is when you feel emotion arising, to start breathing, you'll be on your way. Breathing and creating the space to let it get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and it will naturally drop. Courts recognize that as a valid defense, right? So, I'm going to sign off because I'm tired. And we've been talking it feels like for a long time. Thank you for the hearts and shares. And just remember to breathe. Whatever emotion comes up, whatever situation is happening. Right, so don't make me mad. Don't invalidate my emotions and really piss me off. Okay, guys. You did, and we actually talked briefly about you. Here, I'll just re-say it real quick. So we talked about your statement yesterday about empath being a mirror. Got me started thinking about empaths and sensitive people in general, not you in particular, because I don't know you at all. But empaths and what I've heard myself and sensitive people say in general about needing protection from that. And I was thinking at 3 o'clock this morning that what we really need is better training and acceptance. And allowing all the information coming through that we're picking up from other people and not taking responsibility for things that don't belong to us. Your comment triggered a big, long thought process about people in general. I'm appreciative of it. So I'm glad you're here because I didn't want you to interpret that as a negative thing, because it wasn't. It was about empaths in general and the story we can attach to being empathic. Like, sometimes I have been guilty of using that empathic state as a reason to not do things, which isn't a bad thing if you can't handle the influx of stimuli. You need to protect yourself with distance until you can handle it. But my point is, and I feel like I need to write something up at some point about, you can learn to allow it to come in and through you instead of pounding the heck out of you, all the stuff you can pick up in a crowd. And then we talked generally that some of us have felt a responsibility. Yes. When I remember, I do it that way. Sometimes I forget and I get overwhelmed and I'm like, wait a minute, this stuff can just flow on through. We talked about briefly how until we learn better, we feel responsible to do something with people's pain instead of just allowing them to have their pain. So, yeah. So hopefully you had time to watch the replay. You can fast forward through the housekeeping stuff. Okay, I'm going to enjoy the sun since we haven't seen it in like a million years. And yes, her story is a good example of what that looks like. But thank you for joining me today, and I will be back again tomorrow. Is tomorrow Sunday? It's raining there, which means it'll probably be raining here again. It's been raining for days and days and days. Yes, we talked about it, and then we read the chapter in this book which talks all about detached compassion. What can look like coldness but is not at all. So thanks, guys. See you tomorrow. Have a wonderful Saturday. Wait. Didn't it go... Yes, we talked about how sometimes people think we're cold now because we're coming from such a different place. You're welcome. We'll see you tomorrow. And I'll shoot for... Well, tomorrow's Sunday, right? And I'll be on before noon. I'm not going to worry about it. Bye!